Chapter 4276. After Di Sudong and the rest returned from Chung Zhonghao's place, they stayed in the inn. They couldn't understand what had happened today, so everyone seemed to have a lot on their minds. Second uncle, what Master Chung said can't be true, right? No matter how I look at it, that girl doesn't look like an inscription master. DeVos couldn't help but say. Di Sudong's face darkened. Actually, Chung Da's analysis is very reasonable. In today's situation, Wu Wenfeng indeed has no need to deceive us. However, since Master Chung said that he will check it out, we will just stay here and wait for the news. If Master Cheng's judgment is right and that girl is really an inscription master, then what should we do? DeVos's face turned ugly. Are we just going to let this matter go and not avenge Wen Tao? Hearing this, Di Sudong also fell into deep thought. However, his gaze gradually sharpened. Wen Tao's revenge must be avenged. Even if she is really an inscription master, we must take advantage of the fact that she has yet to gain a firm foothold here and get rid of her as soon as possible. DeVos, who was originally a little depressed, looked better after hearing this. He immediately nodded solemnly. Okay. Just now, Yan Xiangming and the rest have already gone back to think of a way. I don't know if we can lure them out. Just as DeVos was speaking, Yan Xiangming and the other two had already returned. However, after hearing the situation from Yan Xiangming and the other two, DeVos couldn't hold back his temper anymore. Are you all stupid pigs? How can they come out with such a method? Why don't you use your brains and think about it? Just by thinking about it, you know that all of this is simply impossible. Yan Xiangming and the other two shrunk their heads. Facing DeVos's reprimand, they could only endure it. Forget it, you all go back first. I will think of a way. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but shake her head after learning about Yan Xiangming and the other two's actions. These three guys are really stupid. Even if they want to lure us out, they should find a smarter excuse. Only a fool would agree to this kind of clamor. Actually, the three of them really don't have brains. If they had brains, they wouldn't be like this now. Yi Haomiao spread out his hands. His seemingly helpless expression was full of mockery. Maybe it's because they're stupid enough that they've always been loyal to Di Wentao. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. However, with their IQ, I don't think we need to worry. Just as they were talking, an unfamiliar disciple of the Blazing Flames school knocked on her door. Bailey Hongzhuang. I'm here to deliver a message. The man looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two with fear in his eyes. In fact, the three Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were known to be existences not to be trifled with. What's the message? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Master Chung is looking for you. He wants to invite you out for a chat. The man's eyes were filled with excitement. He's the only inscription master in Rong and City. Being invited by him is something that everyone is looking forward to the most. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. Then she replied with two words, I'm not going. Hearing this, the man couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at her as if he was looking at a monster. Chapter 4277. I'm not going. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again, repeating her previous answer. The man stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. He stood rooted to the ground as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. Didn't you hear what I said? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a frown. The man was stunned before he nodded. I heard you. Aren't you going to report back? Oh, I'll go right away. After the man left, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Little junior sister. Master Chung is an extremely powerful inscription master. How could you reject his invitation? I don't know him, so why should I go? Besides, he didn't invite me earlier or later. Why did he invite me now? Don't you think it's strange? Bailey Hongzhuang retorted. That's true. Perhaps this is a scheme the Di family came up with to lure us out and defeat us one by one. Yi Haomiao revealed a look of amazement. This move is much stronger than what Yan Xiangming and the others used before. Wang Yanhan nodded. In that case, it's indeed better not to go. After all, it's better to be careful. In my opinion, we shouldn't think about it no matter what news we hear. We should just stay quietly in the Raging Flames sect. As long as we stay here, the Di family won't be able to find trouble with us. Yi Haomiao sat on the chair nonchalantly. He looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. He had already made up his mind. Chang Zonghao couldn't help but be stunned when he heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had rejected his invitation. He hadn't expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually reject his invitation. Master Chang, Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't know what's good for her. It's already her great fortune that you're willing to invite her. She actually rejected your invitation. How despicable. Chang Zonghao raised his right hand slightly and smiled faintly. It's okay. It's not strange. Master, your temper is too good. I think she doesn't know how to appreciate favors. I think she might have taken my invitation as a cover for the D family. Given the current situation, it is indeed possible for her to think that way. Then should this subordinate go over again and explain to her? Chang Zonghao waved his hand. No need. Next time I'll go to the Raging Flame School personally. This little girl is indeed very interesting. When his subordinates heard that Chang Zonghao was going to the Raging Flames Gate to see Bailey Hongzhuang, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The other party was just a young girl. She was actually able to make his master personally meet her. Wasn't this a little too much face? In comparison, Chang Zonghao didn't think so. He only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang might have really mastered a very powerful method. Otherwise Wu Wenfeng would not be so protective of her. When he thought about how the method that he hadn't been able to decipher for so many years might be in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, he felt somewhat conflicted. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Wan Yanhan were about to return to the house after their discussion, another lady suddenly came looking for them. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. What's the matter? Miss Bailey, there's a man outside who wants to see you. I'm not going to see him. No matter who he is, please help me answer that I'm not seeing him. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. A wave of annoyance in her heart. The D family's people had already failed once, and now they were using the same trick again. It was too boring. Chapter 4278. Yi Haomiao's eyes lit up with curiosity when he heard the woman's words. This is interesting. What kind of person is so confident that you'll definitely go out and meet him once he says his name? What did that man say his name was? Tell us about it. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks. She had not even gone out when the D family had mentioned Chang Zonghao's name. Now she was so confident. This was indeed strange. After all, she had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time. Apart from Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao, she had not interacted with anyone else. It would be very difficult to get hold of her weakness. When she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were starting to get interested again, she could not help but whisper. He said his name is Di Beichun. As the woman's voice fell, Wan Yanhan couldn't help but be taken aback. His eyes flashed with deep astonishment. He was no stranger to this name. Di Beichun? Yi Haomiao frowned. Who is that? I've never heard of him before. However, just as Yi Haomiao turned his head, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang's figure had disappeared. He couldn't help but be stunned and turned to look at Wan Yanhan. Wan Yanhan, what's going on? Wan Yanhan glanced at Yi Haomiao and said, Di Beichun is junior sister's husband. Yi Haomiao was dumbfounded when he heard this. His face was full of astonishment. Is this true? Didn't Miss Bailey say that her husband was in the lower realm? How did he suddenly find this place? I don't know. Wan Yanhan shook his head. Perhaps he knew that junior sister had come to the upper realm, so he came here. Then let's go out and take a look. Let's go. Outside the Raging Flames sect, a white figure stood there for a long time. The man was tall and his back was straight. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and a high nose bridge. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows seemed to be carefully carved by the heavens. They were perfect and flawless. A few koi fish were woven with silver thread at the end of his long white robe. It was otherworldly and elegant. He just stood there quietly, looking into the Raging Flames sect. Clearly, he was waiting for someone. At this moment, a group of people had already gathered around the white-robed man. Numerous gazes of surprise and curiosity landed on him. There were even quite a few women standing to the side who had already blushed. What a handsome young master. I have never seen such a handsome man before. He must have just arrived in Rome and city. Otherwise, we would have heard of such a handsome man. From the looks of it, he must have come to our house of raging flames to look for someone. I wonder who he is looking for? I really envy the woman who helped to pass on the message just now. At least she could say a few words to him. I do hope that he's a new disciple who came to report to the Blazing Flames school. There have been many new disciples who have come to report to the Blazing Flames school. Everyone whispered to each other, but they all stopped on the spot. Obviously, they wanted to know who this handsome man was waiting for. Of course, almost all the women hoped that he was waiting for a man. That way they would have hope. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard the name Di Beichen, she quickly ran out of the house of raging flames. Her elegant and refined face was filled with anticipation. Her beautiful eyes flickered with ecstasy. Chapter 4279. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang had arrived in the upper realm, she had been burdened with anxiety. On one hand, she was worried that Di Beichen would not know that she was still alive and would fall into agony because of this. On the other hand, she was worried that Di Beichen would not be able to find her after arriving in the upper realm. In this vast upper realm, if the other party did not know of her existence, then the chances of them meeting was very slim. She wanted to find out where the Di family was, but she realized that it was extremely difficult to reach that level. With all these situations stacked together, one could imagine how complicated her feelings were. She did not want to be separated from Di Beichen just like this. She might not even be able to see him again for the rest of her life. However, she did not expect to suddenly hear the news that Di Beichen had come to look for her today. She was simply overjoyed. After hearing this news, the three beasts' eyes were filled with joy. I never thought that Di Beichen would be able to find Master so quickly. It seems that he's extraordinarily capable. Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled with excitement. She could not help but clap her hands. Di Beichen has always been very smart. It's not surprising that he would be able to find Master. However, I'm still surprised that he was able to find her so quickly. Xiao Bai smiled. That's great. Master has been depressed because of this matter all this time. Now that Di Beichen is here, Master doesn't have to be sad anymore. Baisher could not help but sigh in relief. His biggest wish was for his master to be happy. Although his master usually did not express anything in front of them, Baisher had followed his master for so long that he understood his master's character very well. He could even see his master's current emotions from her small, unintentional movements. Bailey Hongzhuang rushed to the entrance of the blazing flame sect as fast as the wind. As expected, she saw a familiar tall figure from afar. With just a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang recognized the familiar figure. At that moment, her eyes suddenly became sour, and her bright eyes gradually became moist. Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps could not help but slow down. Staring at the charming figure, thousands of emotions flashed through her mind. As if feeling the gaze behind him, Di Beichen turned around at the same time. When he saw that familiar figure, the curve of his lips couldn't help but gradually widen. His already extraordinarily handsome face became even more enchanting and charming. An indescribable warmth radiated from her body, as warm and enchanting as the winter sun. Even if the face in front of him was not the one he was familiar with, as long as he looked at the familiar figure, he could be sure that this person was his wife. Wife! His deep and magnetic voice was filled with longing and joy. Di Beichen stepped forward. His long and narrow eyes were overflowing with color. It was as if his entire world had lit up the moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. During this period of time, he had been rushing about in search of Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, the worry in his heart had never lessened. At the time, Bailey Hongzhuang had entered the upper realm while being surrounded by everyone. He had never known the situation of Bailey Hongzhuang, so during this period of time, he had been worried that she might have met with some mishap. Chapter 4280. Hearing that familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. The smile on her lips became even more radiant. Then she took a step forward and ran towards Di Beichen. The smile on Di Beichen's face became even more affectionate. He opened his arms and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his embrace. Beichen! Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly. She hugged Di Beichen tightly, feeling his familiar temperature, smell and even heartbeat. Her heart, which had been floating around for the past few days, seemed to settle down in an instant. "Wife, I'm here," Di Beichen slowly said in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. His deep voice was a little hoarse, but it couldn't hide the longing it contained. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly in Di Beichen's embrace. Her little face was pressed against Di Beichen's chest. Only when her emotions calmed down did she slowly raise her little face and look at Di Beichen's handsome face. After taking a closer look, she discovered that Di Beichen's eyelids were slightly green. His clothes were also covered in dust. It was obvious that he had been running around for the past few days and hadn't had a good rest. "Beichen, you've been working hard these days, haven't you?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked with concern. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless hands and shook his head with a smile. "As long as I can see you, nothing else matters." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. A sweet feeling spread in her heart. "Did you come alone?" "I came alone." Di Beichen nodded. When Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao arrived outside the Gate of Raging Flames, they saw the two figures hugging each other. They couldn't help but look at each other. Their expressions changed a little, and a trace of joy surged in their hearts. "Is he Miss Bailey's husband?" Yi Haomiao's eyes flashed with amazement. Even though he was a man, he was still shocked the moment he saw Di Beichen. Previously, he had always thought that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding, her husband should also be extremely outstanding. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of her. However, after meeting Di Beichen, he felt that such a man was really rare in the world. Usually, he still had some confidence in himself. But facing a man like Di Beichen, he couldn't help but feel inferior. "Think so? Actually, I haven't seen him before. But thinking about it, only a man like him is worthy of junior sister." Wang Yanhan smiled as he recalled how Bailey Hongzhuang always missed Di Beichen. In the past, he still had some doubts, but after seeing her today, the doubts in his heart completely disappeared. The two of them were really a match made in heaven. Aside from them, Di Beichen was probably not suitable for anyone else. Yi Haomiao's expression was rather complicated as he stared at the two figures hugging each other. To be honest, based on appearance alone, he felt that Di Beichen seemed to be more outstanding than Bailey Hongzhuang. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding, it wouldn't be bad to make up for it. Di Beichen was originally surrounded by a group of cultivators. Everyone was curious as to who he was waiting for. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear, they couldn't help but be stunned. Many possibilities flashed across their minds, but they never thought that the person who had come would be Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman had only joined the Blazing Flames Order for a few days, but she was exceptionally eye-catching. Chapter 4281. Heavens, I never thought that it would be her. Where did this woman come from? Why is everything that has happened recently related to her? Even Steward Wu is protecting her. It's really strange. This man is so handsome. How did he fall for Bailey Hongzhuang? Look, their appearances are clearly not compatible. The group of women could not help but sigh. Looking at Di Beichen's incomparably handsome appearance, they felt that no one was worthy of him. However, the way Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang now was so obvious with the gentleness and adoration in his eyes. It was obvious that he had placed all his thoughts on her. This is too much of a blow. Did you guys hear what he called Bailey Hongzhuang just now? He actually called Bailey Hongzhuang his wife. Doesn't this mean that they're already married? This is unreasonable. Then isn't there no hope for us? For a moment, the area around Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen was filled with wails and howls. The sound of hearts breaking rose and fell one after another. Then the group of women hugged each other for warmth and left. However, there were still many women who refused to give up until all hope was lost. They were unwilling to shift their gazes away from Di Beichen. "Beichen, why did you come here alone? Didn't Ning Ying and the others come?" Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with anticipation. Until now, she was still unwilling to believe that Ying and the others might have fallen. At this moment, the reunion had left her with too many doubts. There were countless questions in her heart, and she only wanted to clarify them one by one. Previously, when I came out of the ruins, I heard the sound of your bomb. I immediately rushed over to look for you, but I was still one step too late. Later on, when I was looking for you, I found your hairpin at the side of the road. I was certain that you must have come to the upper realm, so I didn't have time to greet them and came here alone. However, when I entered the passage, I heard Xiren's voice. He must have come to look for us. Beichen spoke slowly. At that time, he had left in a hurry, but he still clearly remembered hearing Xiren's call. If he had slowed down a little, he would have been able to exchange a few words with Xiren and the others. However, since things had come to this, he was not too worried. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying knew that they had come to the upper realm. They would probably come here after they broke through to the Starlight realm. Hearing Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang, and I thought you didn't know that I had come to the upper realm. 2. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, she had lost a hairpin. After coming to the upper realm, she also realized this, but she didn't know where her hairpin had fallen. She didn't expect it to fall at the entrance to the upper realm from the lower realm and leave such a message for Beichen. Otherwise, she really didn't know how long it would have taken for her to reunite with Beichen. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of the White Dragon's figure. The reason why she was able to resolve the crisis was entirely because of the White Dragon. Maybe the White Dragon deliberately left the hairpin there. After all, it was too much of a coincidence. Wife, I still don't know what happened after I went to accept the inheritance. How did you end up like this? Chapter 4282. The situation back then was beyond our expectations as well. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed emotionally. Even though the incident had happened a long time ago, she could not help but sigh when she recalled it all. After you had received the inheritance from the ruins, we stayed in the ruins and waited for you to reappear. However, as we were waiting, I suddenly found a strange stone room and was separated from everyone else. However, we never thought that the cultivators from the Crimson Moon sect would return and attack Xiren and the others. By the time I emerged from the stone room, there was no one left in the ruins. Later on, I fell into their ambush. I see. It was only at this moment that Beichen understood everything. His deep, dark eyes suddenly darkened. I never thought that the members of the Crimson Moon sect would be so despicable. Things had turned out this way. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang could not care less about this. Beichen, are you sure that you heard Xiren's voice? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. When I emerged from the ruins, the members of the Crimson Moon sect told me that Yingying and the others had fallen. Her pitch-black, phoenix-like eyes flickered with a fervent and nervous light. This was undoubtedly the most unbearable thing for her. When she had first heard this news, she had felt her heart clench. She had long gotten used to living with Yingying and the others. When she thought about how they would never appear in front of her again, she felt an emptiness in her heart. When he saw how concerned Bailey Hongzhuang was, Beichen could not help but reach out and stroke her head. He smiled and said, I did hear it. Don't worry, I didn't hear wrongly. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. The sadness and oppression that had gathered in her heart was completely relieved at this moment. Shangguan Yingying and the others were still alive. Beichen had also returned to her side. All of this made her feel extremely happy. When everyone saw how intimate Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were, their eyes flashed with envy. For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had become the object of envy of the female disciples of the Blazing Flames school. When Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Haomiao's excitement, they were too embarrassed to disturb them. After all, they had been separated for such a long time. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Needless to say, they were overjoyed. When they saw that the two of them had calmed down, they slowly walked over. Little junior sister, Wanyan Han said tentatively, afraid that his appearance would disturb their warmth. After seeing Wanyan Han, Bailey Hongzhuang also revealed a smile. Senior brother, let me introduce you. This is my husband, Beichen. Nice to meet you. Wanyan Han's smile was full of joy. I have long heard of your name from little junior sister. Seeing you today, you are indeed extraordinary. Speaking of which, you are my junior brother. I am so happy to see you in the upper world. After hearing Wang Yanhan's words, Di Beichen's handsome eyes flashed with a faint doubt. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words quickly resolved his doubts. Beichen, this is senior brother Wang Yanhan. He is the elder brother of senior brother Wang Yanling in our Penglai Palace. Chapter 4283. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Wife, you are so lucky. You met the senior brother of our family when you first came to the upper world. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled brightly. When I first came to the upper world, I was already in a coma. Fortunately, I met senior brother and he saved me. Later, when I found out that senior brother was also from Penglai Palace, I also felt that it was too much of a coincidence. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's eyes suddenly focused. Although Bailey Hongzhuang said it lightly, he heard the key word, coma. When Bailey Hongzhuang first came to the upper world, she was actually in a coma. However, at that time she was forced to come to the upper world by herself. That situation was not beyond his expectations. Fortunately, his wife met a senior brother of his family and did not meet any bad people. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Senior brother Wang Yan, thank you for saving Hongzhuang. Di Beichen's eyes were serious and sincere. If you need my help in the future, just tell me and I will do my best. Saving Bailey Hongzhuang was a great kindness to him. Looking at Di Beichen's serious look, Wang Yanhan was also a little surprised, but the other party's performance also made him more aware of the importance Bailey Hongzhuang had in Di Beichen's heart. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang had been thinking about Di Beichen after coming to the upper world alone. Now it seemed that Di Beichen's affection for Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang had only increased. As a man, he understood the weight of Di Beichen's words and also understood his gratitude. Junior brother Di, you are too polite. Since junior sister is my junior sister, it is my duty to take care of her. Moreover, junior sister has actually helped me a lot during this period of time. If it wasn't for junior sister's help, I might be in a different situation right now. Wang Yanhan's words were also very sincere. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance waking him up, he would definitely still be being pressured by Di Wentao. Back then, Di Wentao had already gone more and more overboard. In fact, he knew in his heart that even if he tolerated Di Wentao, he wouldn't be able to endure for too long. Di Wentao would definitely attack him. Without the inscriptions given to him by little junior sister, he and Yi Haomiao wouldn't be a match for Di Wentao's group at all. At that time, the person who would die would not be Di Wentao, but himself. Di Beichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't find Wang Yanhan's words strange. His wife was originally very capable, and it was expected that she would be able to help others. After all, he understood Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't like to take advantage of others. If others helped her, she would definitely find a way to return the favor. By the way, Beichen, this is senior brother Wang Yan's good brother Yi Haomiao. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. By the way, Beichen, how did you find me? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen curiously. Even if he knew that she had come to the upper realm, it wasn't an easy thing to find her. Junior brother Di, did you also happen to be transported to Rong and City? Wang Yanhan was also a little curious. He had always wanted to meet Wang Yanling. Since Di Beichen could find Bailey Hongzhuang so quickly, maybe he would be able to meet his brother soon in the future. Chapter 4284. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were stunned. They didn't expect Di Beichen to have gone to so many cities. Then how did you know that junior sister was here? Wang Yanhan looked at Di Beichen in surprise. It was too difficult to find Bailey Hongzhuang in so many places. How did Di Beichen find her so quickly? After I arrived, I asked around for information about my wife. When I couldn't find any clues, I went to the next city. However, when I came to Rong and City, many people said that she was a disciple of the Blazing Flames sect when I mentioned her name. That's why I came to the Blazing Flame sect. Baichen's lips curled up slightly. Speaking of which, I'm really glad that my wife is able to cause a stir wherever she goes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy for me to find her. After all, it was too difficult to find a person in a sea of people. However, if the person was very famous, it would be different. It would be very easy to find her. Bailey Hongzhuang had never been a low-key person. Beichen believed that as long as Hongzhuang was around, she would definitely spread some news. This didn't mean that Hongzhuang liked to cause trouble. It was just that gold would always shine. She was destined to be extraordinary. Sure enough, after arriving at Rong and City, he only needed to ask around to get the relevant information. When he first heard the news, he was extremely surprised. After searching for so long, he finally found Hongzhuang. I see. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at Beichen. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be very uncomfortable with so many things happening these days. However, after hearing Beichen's explanation and recalling Bailey Hongzhuang's calm appearance, they suddenly felt that they might have been worrying too much. Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly very calm about these situations. No wonder Miss Bailey is so young but not afraid of what has happened these days. It turns out that she's already used to it. Yi Haomiao sighed as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had previously admired Bailey Hongzhuang's calmness. Even he was frightened by Bailey Hongzhuang. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang was already experienced. Feeling Yi Haomiao and Yi Haomiao's gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but shrug. Actually, I don't know what's going on. I wanted to keep a low profile. DeVoe's group stayed in the inn, thinking about how to lure Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two out. This was the only way they could think of now. However, when they found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually rejected Chang Zhonghao's invitation, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. If they heard that someone had rejected Chang Zhonghao's invitation, they would definitely think that person was crazy. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually had the guts to reject Chang Zhonghao's invitation. They also felt helpless. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really unmoved by force or persuasion. DeVoe frowned. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so difficult to deal with. He also felt extremely helpless. Now even Master Cheng's invitation is useless. Brother Wu Zhe, I'm afraid it's really difficult to get them out. Yin Xiangming was also at his wits' end. In the past, he didn't think that Wang Yanhan and the others were so difficult to deal with. Chapter 4285. Upon seeing DeVoe's anger, Yin Xiangming nodded repeatedly and said, Yes, yes, we will definitely think of a way. You idiot! Hurry up and think. DeVoe reached out and patted Yin Xiangming's head. I'm starting to suspect that Wen Tao's death has something to do with you guys. Yin Xiangming and the others could not help but be stunned when they heard DeVoe's words. They looked at DeVoe in horror. Could he have discovered something? You guys are so stupid. You can't help Wen Tao come up with a plan by following him around. You might have come up with some useless ideas, which is why Wen Tao ended up in such a state. Upon hearing DeVoe's words, Yin Xiangming and the others could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was not DeVoe who had received other news and did not suspect them. However, their reaction did not escape Di Sudong's eyes. Suddenly, a trace of suspicion flashed across his eyes. He had never suspected these three guys before. According to Wen Tao's description, they had always been loyal and devoted to him. There was no need to suspect them at all. However, their expressions just now were too strange. It was obvious that they were guilty. Could there be a hidden story behind this matter? Di Sudong frowned. For a moment he could not determine what the problem was. However, at that moment hurried footsteps were heard. Then, a cultivator from the Di family quickly appeared in front of everyone. Good news. The gazes of Di Wuze and the others all landed on this cultivator. They only wanted to know what good news he had brought back. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have already left the Fiery Flame sect, and are standing outside the Fiery Flame sect. Upon hearing this, DeVoe immediately stood up, his face full of excitement. Is what you said true? Is there a mistake? I guarantee that the news is absolutely true. There is absolutely no mistake. That's great. DeVos clapped his hands. I thought they were going to stay in the Blazing Flame School for a while. I didn't expect them to come out so soon. They really walked right into the trap. Just as DeVos was about to rush out, Di Sudong asked again, have you figured out why they came out? In this situation, they clearly know that they will face our attacks as soon as they come out, yet they still dare to come out. Could this be a trap? DeVos also stopped in his tracks. In the current situation, the other party's actions were indeed a little strange. Yeah, why is that? It seems that a cultivator went to look for them. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately rushed out after hearing the news. They are now standing outside the gate of Raging Flames to acknowledge each other. Second uncle, I'll go take a look. As soon as he finished speaking, DeVos couldn't help but rush outside. He had finally caught such a good opportunity, so he definitely couldn't miss it. Otherwise, he didn't know when Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two would come out again. Today, he had suffered a loss at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Now he just wanted to get back at them as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be too unpleasant. Chapter 4286. When DeVos arrived outside the Blazing Flame sect, he indeed found Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chatting outside. After noticing the man beside Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes could not help but flash with a hint of surprise. Many names quickly flashed through his mind, but after confirming that none of the young talents could match the man in front of him, he relaxed. Oh no, DeVos is here. DeVos' sudden appearance stunned the surrounding cultivators. They had not expected him to receive news so quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had only come out for a short while, but he had already arrived. At the same time, Yan Xiangming and the other two did not delay either. They followed closely behind DeVos and appeared here. Wanyan Han, didn't you plan to hide in the Blazing Flame sect like cowards? Why did you run out after such a short while? DeVos' lips curled into a ferocious and mocking smile. He looked at the four people in front of him with disdain. In his eyes, the four of them were just insignificant dregs. However, they thought that they were great after having Wu Wenfeng's protection. They actually dared to be arrogant in front of him. He had to teach them a lesson personally. Only then would they understand the difference between them. DeVos is really well informed. We just came out, but he found us so quickly. Wanyan Han frowned. This was not the situation they wanted to see. However, DeVos had suddenly run over. For a moment they did not know what to do. Although the people from the D family are not good people, it is undeniable that they are very powerful. We are no match for them. Let's avoid them for the time being. Yi Haomiao's expression was solemn. He had already understood DeVos' strength. Based on their current situation, they were indeed no match for DeVos. This was not the Blazing Flame sect. There was absolutely no benefit for them to clash head-on with DeVos. It would not be worth it if they lost their lives. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Let's go in first. DeVos' strength had reached Star Radiant Stage 8. Even if the three of them worked together, wanting to deal with DeVos was extremely difficult. Moreover, Yan Xiangming and the other two were not far away. The other cultivators of the D family must be nearby as well, so there was no time to waste. Di Beichen looked at DeVos, who was clamoring at the side. A cold light flashed in his dark eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "Who is he?" "It's a long story. In short, they are our opponents," Bailey Hongzhuang said. "The other party can be considered to have power and influence in the upper realm. We are no match for him." Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a contemplative light, but after thinking about it carefully, he understood that this person in front of him was probably related to the news he had heard before. "Let's go." Wanyan Han ignored DeVos' mockery and immediately gestured for everyone to leave together. After noticing Wanyan Han's movements, Yan Xiangming and the others hurriedly reminded him, "Big brother Wanyan Han, they want to hide inside." Di Wu's eyes narrowed. His footsteps suddenly quickened as he said, "It's useless even if you hide inside. It's true that I can't attack you in the Raging Flame sect, but I can't protect this fellow." DeVos pointed at Di Beichen, who was beside Bailey Hongzhuang. The Blazing Flame sect does have a rule that I can't attack its disciples, but this guy shouldn't be from the Blazing Flame sect, right? Chapter 4287. As DeVows finished speaking, Yin Xiaoming and the other two couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Their faces shone with excitement. Big Brother Wu Zhe is so smart. Wan Yin Han and the others are at their wits' end. Judging from the closeness between that man and Bailey Hongzhuang, he's most likely her lover. As long as we kill this man, Wan Yin Han and the others won't be able to hold back. If they take the initiative to attack Big Brother Wu Zhe, then it won't be a problem for Big Brother Wu Zhe to take action. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions couldn't help but become unsightly. They really hadn't expected this to happen. It could only be said that DeVows and the others were too fast and didn't give them any time to recover. What should we do? I'm afraid it's too late to find Steward Wu now. Yi Haomiao looked anxious. If they take action, Once DeVows and the others took action, Di Beichen's life would definitely be in danger if they didn't take action. However, if they took action, they wouldn't be a match for DeVows either. Based on the current situation, victory was completely in DeVows' hands. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also complicated. Previously, she had been immersed in the joy of reuniting with Di Beichen, and had temporarily forgotten about these annoying fellows from the Di family. Now that these annoying fellows had appeared again, it was indeed somewhat troublesome. Wan Yin Han's expression was also unsightly. Bailey Hongzhuang had finally reunited with Di Beichen after much difficulty. At this time, no danger could be allowed to occur. Otherwise, he would be letting Bailey Hongzhuang down. Beichen, let's run first. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen and gave him a meaningful glance. Di Beichen already understood her meaning. As long as they escaped a certain distance, they could directly escape into the chaos ring. In this way, the other party naturally wouldn't be able to find them. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's worried expression, Di Beichen nodded slightly. Okay, senior brother, Beichen and I will run out first. You guys go back to the Raging Flame sect first. Don't worry about us. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. Hearing this, Wan Yin couldn't help but be stunned. He then shook his head nervously and said, "How can we do that? The two of you are really too dangerous. Don't worry, we'll be fine." After saying that, Di Beichen's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di's up. Of, he, out, das test s, his ts was undoubtedly s. As long as he captured Di Beichen, they wouldn't have to be afraid that he wouldn't capture them. Hence, after noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's SSSS, DeVows immediately rushed towards them. Trying to run? DeVows stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. No way. Yin Xiaoming and the other two immediately rushed over and blocked Bailey Hongzhuang's escape route. DeVows, what are you trying to do? Bailey Hongzhuang asked coldly. It would be fine if this guy came looking for trouble with her. Now that Beichen had finally returned, he actually came looking for trouble with Beichen. Anger surged in her heart. Chapter 4288. This time Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are going to be miserable. DeVows will definitely kill them. Oh my god, is such a handsome man going to die soon? He was completely implicated by Bailey Hongzhuang. It bodes ill rather than well. DeVows is much stronger than Di Wentao. Who asked this man to come at the wrong time and fall into this trouble? The surrounding practitioners looked at Di Beichen with sympathy. Some of the men originally looked at Di Beichen with displeasure, but now that they knew that Di Beichen was going to die soon, they sympathized with this short-lived guy. Wan Yin Han and Yi Haomiao also stopped after seeing this scene. They were afraid that today's fight was unavoidable. However, even if they had to risk their lives, they had to help Di Beichen escape. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at DeVows coldly. We only destroyed Di Wentao's cultivation. He didn't die at our hands. Do you understand the real situation? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, DeVows was slightly stunned. He unconsciously frowned. Didn't Wentao die at your hands? Hey, if you say that we destroyed Di Wentao's cultivation, I'll admit it. But if you say that he died at our hands, we won't admit it. Yi Haomiao hurriedly said. At that time it was in public. There were many people who saw the whole thing clearly. Everyone can testify that we didn't kill him. However, as for how he died, you have to ask Yan Xiangming and the others behind you how he died. As far as I know, after they brought Di Wentao back, Di Wentao died that night. They should be the ones who know the situation best. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth, Yan Xiangming and the other two felt that something was wrong. Then Yi Haomiao explained the whole sequence of events. The three of them couldn't help but turn pale, because they could clearly feel Di Wu's eyes as he turned to look at them with a trace of ruthlessness. Didn't you say that Wentao was killed by them? What's the situation now? Wentao died because of them, Yan Xiangming hurriedly said. After they crippled Wentao's cultivation, Wentao felt very uncomfortable. Later that night, Wentao couldn't take the blow and vomited blood and died. Big brother Wu Zhe, believe me. Everything I said is true. I'm definitely not lying to you. Yan Xiangming looked nervous and his eyes were filled with hope. He only hoped that DeVos would believe him. If DeVos didn't believe him, then he would definitely have a hard time. However, DeVos only glanced at him coldly and did not say anything. He was no fool. In fact, when he heard the news of Wentao's death, he was extremely shocked. All along, he had thought that it was Wan Yanhan and the others who crippled Wentao's cultivation and killed him after humiliating him. This kind of humiliation was simply abominable to the extreme. However, now that he had figured out the specific situation, it had become very strange. If it was only the Dantian that was crippled, it was impossible for him to lose his life. However, Di Wentao had died just like that. There must be something fishy about this. When I get back, I'll deal with you all. DeVos spat fiercely. Then, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again. No matter what, Wentao's death is related to you all. You must pay the price. Chapter 4289. No matter what, all of you must die today, DeVos said angrily. His mood was even worse than before. He had always believed in Yan Xiangming and the other two, so much so that he didn't have any doubts after coming here. Now that he was being questioned in front of everyone, it was undoubtedly a loss of face. It turned out that he still hadn't figured out the real process of Wentao's death. Speaking of which, it was these annoying fellows who had deliberately deceived them. This guy is really domineering. Di Beichen's gaze was ice-cold. Although he didn't understand the ins and outs of this matter, after listening to the conversation just now, he was somewhat clear about it. You haven't seen my true domineering appearance yet. DeVos' face was ashen. He was already burning with anger, and only wanted to find someone to calm his anger. He immediately turned his target to Di Beichen. This guy was only from the lower realm, but his bearing was even more outstanding than his. It was really hateful. Die. As soon as these words came out, DeVos' aura of a rank 8-star Radiance Realm cultivator instantly burst out. That tyrannical aura shocked everyone present. Just by feeling this aura, one could tell how strong DeVos was. At least, the majority of the cultivators present were not his match. Dibang. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but cry out. A rank 8-star Radiance Realm cultivator's speed was even more powerful. In almost the blink of an eye, the attack had already arrived. Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were also shocked. DeVos' attack was really too unexpected. Even if they wanted to block a bit, it was too late. DeVos' eyes flashed with raging anger. He wanted to kill everyone in front of him to avenge Wentao. Facing DeVos' aggressive attack, Di Beichen's gaze turned cold. He punched out and met the opponent's fist. Bang! A muffled sound was heard, and a tyrannical qi swept out like a gale. Everyone in the surroundings could feel the qi that spread out in all directions. It was simply terrifying. However, at this moment, almost everyone's eyes were focused on Di Beichen's fist, and their eyes flashed with a thick color of astonishment. He blocked it? He actually blocked it? Everyone was stunned and looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. They simply couldn't believe that Di Baichen was able to block Davao's attack. How is this possible? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. No one would have thought that this young man who was as handsome as an immortal would have such a powerful cultivation. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were also dumbfounded. According to the information they had gathered, Di Baichen had only just arrived in the upper realm. Could it be that his cultivation had already reached such a level? Wasn't this a little too frightening? Davao's was also dumbfounded at this moment. His dilated eyes showed the shock in his heart. This fellow in front of him looked much younger than him. How could his cultivation have reached such a level? In the exchange just now, he had clearly sensed that his opponent's power was not any weaker than his own. Bailey Hongzhuang was also astonished. However, she quickly understood the problem. It seems that Di Baichen's harvest in the ruins was not small. In such a short period of time, his power had increased by so much. However, when she thought about how powerful the ruins were, she felt that all of this was reasonable. Chapter 4290. Wow, I didn't expect this man to be so powerful. He's so handsome and powerful in battle. I'm so envious of him. How could such a good man be snatched away by Bailey Hongzhuang? We really can't underestimate the cultivators from the lower realm now. Each of them seems to be more powerful than the last. Initially, Bailey Hongzhuang and Wang Yanhan's performance had made everyone start to take the cultivators from the lower realm seriously. Now that Di Baichen had appeared, they could not help but feel even more strongly about it. In the past, the possibility of a cultivator from the lower realm wanting to stand out here was almost pitifully small. However, the situation now seems to have changed. Master, Baichen's aura has also become very powerful. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with amazement. Previously, Di Baichen had not made a move, so they had not noticed this. Furthermore, after meeting Di Baichen, there were too many things that they wanted to know, so they did not ask about this at all. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her clear black and white eyes rippled with a joyful luster. It's only been a short time since we last met and Baichen has become so powerful. That's great. Baichen is so powerful. This means that we don't have to fear Davao's anymore. Xiaobai could not help but sigh in relief. He was really worried about the situation before. He did not expect Di Baichen to be able to completely resist Davao's. Davao's retracted his hand and stared gloomily at Di Baichen. He had really underestimated this guy. Since you've also reached this level of cultivation, why are you still running away? Are you deliberately playing with me? He was now in an extremely bad mood. He had wanted to use this opportunity to show off his abilities, but he did not expect the other party to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Instead, he had become a joke in front of everyone. One could imagine how gloomy he was feeling. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to show off and let everyone know how powerful he was. Unexpectedly, not only did he fail to achieve such an effect, but he also let Di Baichen step on his head to show off. I'm willing, do you have a problem with that? Di Baichen's expression was mild and indifferent, as if he didn't care about Davao's at all. However, after seeing Di Baichen's arrogant look, Davao's had other thoughts in his mind. No matter how he looked at it, this guy in front of him did not look like an ordinary person. Logically speaking, if he was really a cultivator from the lower realm who had just arrived, there was no reason for him to be so arrogant in such a situation. However, Di Baichen was arrogant and full of confidence. He couldn't help but suspect that this fellow wasn't a cultivator from the lower realm at all. It was impossible for such a powerful cultivator to appear in the lower realms. Tell me honestly, which family are you from? Davao's asked aloud. He couldn't rashly offend some extremely powerful opponents. It would not be good for his entire family. Listening to Davao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and others were all surprised. They did not expect this guy to suddenly say such a thing. However, after they reacted, everyone only felt extremely funny. Obviously, Di Baichen's strength gave the other party a wrong impression. I just came to the upper realm for the first time, Di Baichen said coldly. Chapter 4291. Please enter the text. Looking at Davao's confident expression, Wang Yanhan and the others found it funny. They didn't expect that Di Beichen would make Davao's have such an illusion. However, they didn't find it strange. In fact, if they didn't know that Di Beichen was a cultivator from the lower realm like them, it would be hard to imagine that Di Beichen was from the lower realm. Thinking of this, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, he had the same feeling when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. It's up to you to believe it or not. Di Beichen glanced at Davao's lazily. He didn't know why this guy would think of this question out of nowhere. Davao's looked at Di Beichen suspiciously. Thousands of thoughts were running through his mind. Could it be that he was mistaken? That shouldn't be, Davao's was puzzled. The cultivation resources in the lower realm were far inferior to those in the upper realm. Wasn't it too shocking that Di Beichen could cultivate to such a level at such a young age in the lower realm? However, after thinking about it carefully, if Di Beichen was from the upper realm, there was no need for him to lie to him. After all, if he had a background, all he had to do was mention it. Why did he have to go through so much trouble? After understanding this point, Di Wuze also felt that he had lost face. Thinking about how he had just vowed that Di Beichen must have a background to protect him, now the situation was really shameful. However, the current situation put him in a difficult position. He could only hope that the cultivators from the Di family would arrive soon. Although he had only exchanged one move with Di Beichen, he found that Di Beichen was very strong. At least he didn't have the upper hand in the previous move. Once the two of them fought, he couldn't guarantee that he would win. On the contrary, if he lost, he would really be treated as a stepping stone by Di Beichen. He would lose face and Di Beichen would be in the limelight. Davao's wouldn't do such a thing. As Davao's stopped attacking, the atmosphere suddenly became strange again. Why did Davao's suddenly stop attacking? Could it be that he's no match for Di Beichen, so he chose to stop? Davao's is much older than Di Beichen, but he's still no match for him? How talented is Di Beichen's cultivation? The crowd couldn't help but exclaim. Previously, they thought that it was already very difficult for Di Beichen to block Davao's attack. However, based on the current situation, it seemed that they had underestimated Di Beichen. Fortunately, the situation was just as Di Wuze had expected. He'd only stopped for a short while when the figures of Di Sudong and the others appeared not too far behind him. When Di Sudong and the others came down, they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others outside the gate of the Fiery Flame sect. Davao seemed to be in a deadlock with them. Seeing this, Di Sudong couldn't help but frown. There was some confusion in his expression. Wuze, what happened? Logically speaking, given Davao's strength, he should be able to defeat the other party. It was precisely because of this that he had come out late. After all, the conflicts between the younger generation should be left to the younger generation to resolve themselves. It would be troublesome for the elders to go and win with an unfair advantage. Chapter 4292. After Di Sudong walked to Davao's side, he lowered his voice and said, "Second uncle, this person's strength is on par with mine." Di Sudong was slightly stunned when he heard this. When he looked at Di Beichen again, his expression was somewhat surprised. Who is he? He seems to be this lady's lover, but I think he just came up from the lower realm. At this point, Davao's expression did not look too good. After all, he was a cultivator from the upper realm with a considerable family background. It was awkward that his strength was on par with a cultivator from the lower realm. Just came up from the lower realm? Di Sudong raised his eyebrows. In that case, he shouldn't be a disciple of the Blazing Flame sect, right? Davao's nodded slightly. Definitely not. If Di Beichen was also a disciple of the Blazing Flame sect, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have thought of escaping with him just now. Then it's easy. Di Sudong's gaze turned sinister. He immediately called out to the cultivators behind him and said, "Kill this fellow." As soon as Di Sudong finished speaking, a few Di family disciples behind him immediately stepped forward and targeted Di Beichen. Their killing intent surged rapidly. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but tense. They had not expected Di Sudong to make such a decision. There are so many of you. Isn't this an unfair victory? Yi Haomiao said angrily. The Di family had come this time to avenge Di Wentao, so the cultivators who came here were not weak. Di Beichen could deal with devours, but with so many people attacking together, Di Beichen was definitely no match for them. So what? Devours did not care. To him, it was enough as long as he could kill these guys to avenge himself and Di Wentao. Di Beichen looked coldly at the Di family members in front of him. He understood that these guys were very difficult to deal with. It seemed that his wife had spent a lot of effort to deal with these guys. It was just that his appearance had given the other party an opportunity. In the next moment, everyone saw Di Beichen's figure flicker and appear behind Devours like a ghost. By the time Devours reacted, Di Beichen's sword was already at his neck. Devours' face immediately turned pale, and his expression was filled with panic. What are you doing? Di Sudong and the others were also stunned. No one thought that Di Beichen's actions would be so fast, taking advantage of the time when they weren't paying attention and directly taking Di Wuzhe hostage. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw Di Beichen's swift technique, they all praised him in their hearts. Originally, they were at a complete disadvantage, but now they had the initiative in their own hands. This was simply too good. Beichen, well done. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile, her dark and bright eyes sparkling with appreciation and excitement. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. Although Devours was not the ringleader, he was still a very important person in the Di family's team. As long as Devours was in their hands, the Di family would not dare to act rashly. Let go of me. Devours struggled, his expression extremely ugly. He had wanted to use this opportunity to teach Di Beichen a lesson, but he had not expected to fall into Di Beichen's hands. How could he still have any face left? Chapter 4293. Please enter the text. Just as Devours was struggling in disbelief, Di Beichen's sharp sword had unceremoniously cut through his skin and fresh blood flowed out. Feeling the pain in his neck, Devours' face flashed with a trace of fear. He never thought that Di Beichen would actually dare to do this. Di Sudong and the rest did not dare to act rashly at this moment. They immediately stopped their movements and said, "Let's talk things over. Put down your weapon first." Hearing the other party's words, Di Beichen's lips could not help but curl into a mocking smile. If I put down my sword, I'm afraid that you won't have such a good attitude, right? Cut the crap. What do you want us to do so that we can let Devours go? Since you like to cause trouble so much, why don't I just kill him? Even if I die, there will be someone to take the fall with me. Di Beichen's gaze was as cold as a sharp sword. Looking at Devours, his gaze was filled with murderous intent. This damned guy, how dare he target his wife? Don't. Devours raised his hands, his face filled with fear. Brother, let's talk things over. Don't be rash. He was young and had a bright future ahead of him. He did not want to lose his little life like this. Bailey Hongzhuang took the opportunity to pry open Devours' mouth and put a pill in. Gulp. Before Devours could react to what it was, he had already swallowed it. Instantly, his face became even more unsightly. What did you feed me? Nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. It's just poison. As soon as these words came out, Devours' face became extremely unsightly. He immediately wanted to spit it out, but found that the pill melted in his mouth and could not be spitted out at all. You actually poisoned me. Devours looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. He had never imagined that this fellow would actually do such a thing. There are so many people from the Di family surrounding us. If I don't do this, how can I guarantee our safety? Bailey Hongzhuang's long, shapely eyebrows raised slightly. Her expression was indifferent, as if her actions were perfectly normal. Devours looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had a cunning expression. His heart was filled with regret. He should have realized that this woman was not simple, but it was too late now. Bailey Hongzhuang, how dare you? Di Sudong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily. He did not expect that his negligence would allow Bailey Hongzhuang to grasp such a big loophole. His face was also ugly. Di Wintao was already dead. If something happened to Di Wuza, then he would really be too ashamed to return to the Di family. Old man, don't frighten me. Bailey Hongzhuang looked coldly at Di Sudong. I can't stand being frightened. If you scare me, I'll forget what poison I've given him and won't be able to find the antidote. That won't be good. When the Di family's cultivators saw Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogant look, they could not help but say, so what if you've poisoned him? Do you think our Di family can't detoxify the poison you've given him? Don't say that I'm looking down on you. This poison, you really can't detoxify it. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. This is a unique poison that I bought with a lot of money in the past. An ordinary antidote will not work at all. However, if you don't believe me, then feel free to try it. Bailey Hongzhuang signaled Di Beichen with her eyes. Di Beichen then released devouse. Bang! Chapter 4294. Please enter the text. Although he had regained his freedom, Devouse was not happy because his mind was full of the poison that Bailey Hongzhuang had given him. He did not know what kind of poison it was, but he had a bad feeling when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's confident look. Wu Zhe, take this antidote first. Di Sudong obviously did not believe Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and immediately handed a detoxification pill to Devouse. Devouse swallowed it without hesitation. Wan Yanhan and the others could not help but feel nervous when they saw this scene. They did not know what kind of poison Bailey Hongzhuang had given them. If it was detoxified just like that, their original advantage would be gone. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked indifferent. Obviously, they were not worried that Devouse could detoxify the poison at all. Di Beichen was very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's medical and poison skills. Although they were in the lower realm previously, he believed that Bailey Hongzhuang's poison skills were still outstanding even in the upper realm. After Devouse took the detoxification pill, he felt relieved. Their family's detoxification pill was also very effective. Ordinary poisons were not effective at all. However, after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's nonchalant look, he still felt a little nervous. Wu Zhe, how are you feeling? Di Sudong looked at Devouse with concern. No matter what, he could not let anything happen to Devouse. Devouse thought carefully for a moment. He could not tell what his situation was at that moment. Second uncle, I'm not sure. Hearing Devouse's words, Di Sudong and the others seemed helpless, but they knew that he was not lying. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's poison did not take effect, and Devouse was not a doctor. Naturally, he did not know what was going on. Bailey Hongzhuang, I've cured you of the poison. Devouse looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not believe that a cultivator from the lower realm would be able to come up with such a powerful poison. The alchemy techniques of the upper realm were much more powerful than those of the lower realm. It would not be a problem for them to detoxify the poison. Seeing Devouse's smug expression, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sneer. Look at your wrist and see if it's blue. My poison isn't that easy to detoxify. Hearing this, Devouse hurriedly rolled up his sleeves and looked at his wrist. His face couldn't help but change. As expected, there was a faint green color around his wrist. He had never noticed that there was such a green color around his wrist. He was afraid that this was really Bailey Hongzhuang's doing. Di Sudong noticed the change in Devouse's expression and couldn't help but pull his hand over. His expression changed as well. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, his gaze became even fiercer. Bailey Hongzhuang, hand over the antidote. Do I have to hand it over just because you want me to? Bailey Hongzhuang sneered, in your dreams. If you don't hand over the antidote, I'll kill all of you. If you kill us, you'll never be able to get the antidote in this lifetime. Devouse will have to die. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Of course, if you want Devouse to die, you can give it a try. Chapter 4295. Please enter the text. Di Sudong sighed when he saw this. He could not understand how they had ended up being held hostage by the other party when they clearly had the upper hand. Then what do you want to do? Di Sudong stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had originally thought that Wan Yanhan was the leader of the team and had placed all his attention on him. It was only now that he realized that this woman was not easy to deal with. She had actually turned the situation around. How hateful. It's very simple. As long as you promise not to cause trouble for us in the future, and give me 50,000 spirit stones, that will do. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. The golden sunlight shone on her face, making her delicate and pretty face appear charming and charming. However, when the crowd heard Bailey Hongzhuang's exorbitant demand, they could not help but be dumbfounded. 50,000 spirit stones? This Bailey Hongzhuang's list is really not small. 50,000 spirit stones, that's not a small number. I'm afraid that the Di family will be angered to death by Bailey Hongzhuang. She asked for so many spirit stones. If they agree, where will the Di family put their face? When Di Sudong heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, his expression became increasingly gloomy. Little girl, don't go overboard. Overboard? Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. No matter how overboard I am, can I be more overboard than you? The grudge between Di Wentao and my senior brother is between the two of them. Your Di family is rather interesting. The younger one has lost and the older one has run out. According to your logic, if my senior brother and Di Wentao were to fight one-on-one, would it be one-on-one against him or your entire family? If you want to talk about going overboard, I don't think anyone is more overboard than you, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flickered with disgust and disdain. The other party's method was very unreasonable. As expected, when Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, the surrounding cultivators could not help but nod their heads. Speaking of which, the problem between Di Wentao and Wan Yanhan should be resolved by themselves. Moreover, everyone was clear that it had always been Di Wentao who took the initiative to find trouble with Wan Yanhan. Wan Yanhan had been avoiding him all along. It was only in the end that he had no choice but to make a move. He had never expected that a group of cultivators from the Di family would rush over right after he had gotten rid of Di Wentao. This was equivalent to provoking the other party's entire family. According to the Di family's way of doing things, no one dared to provoke the Di family. However, in this way they could only be bullied by the Di family. To be honest, everyone was somewhat dissatisfied. After Di Sudong and the others heard this, they also felt embarrassed. If the young one couldn't do it, the old one would step in. Overall, they were indeed unreasonable. So what? You killed my brother, so it's only right that we avenge him. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourselves for having no background. Even if you die, no one will avenge you. This is a very normal thing in the upper realm. So, it's normal for me to blackmail you now. Think about it yourselves. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. She really could not be bothered to talk nonsense with this idiot DeVows. If you agree, I can give you the antidote. Otherwise, we'll fight to the death. Anyway, we have nothing to lose. At most, we only have one life. It's not bad to have you as a scapegoat. Chapter 4296. Di Sudong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily. He really wanted to arrest Bailey Hongzhuang and the others directly. This guy thought that he had caught their weakness and was proud of himself. This feeling of being pinched by the other party really made him feel very unhappy. Do it. Capture all of them. I don't believe that we can't find the antidote. Di Sudong said angrily. He had been angered by Bailey Hongzhuang time and time again, so he was no longer clear-headed. The essence energy in Di Baichen's body surged instantly. His black eyes were as deep as the sea and filled with surging killing intent. At that moment, Wu Wenfeng walked out of the blazing flame sect. He sighed helplessly when he saw the confrontation in front of him. He had already expected that the Di family would not let the matter rest, but he had not expected them to confront each other so quickly. What's going on? Wu Wenfeng walked over to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His eyes darted back and forth between Bailey Hongzhuang and the D family, obviously trying to figure out what had happened. Steward Wu, the D family is here to cause trouble, Wan Yanhan could not help but say. Wu Wenfeng frowned slightly and looked at Di Sudong. Brother Di, I think that I have already made myself very clear. Are you determined to become enemies with the Blazing Flame sect? He had already been very unhappy with DeVoe's attitude previously. He felt that the D family thought highly of themselves and did not even care about the Blazing Flame sect. Now that they were actually causing trouble outside the Blazing Flame sect, one could imagine how unhappy he was. Di Sudong was also unhappy when he heard Wu Wenfeng's words. He felt that Wu Wenfeng was really using a chicken feather as a token of authority and thought that he was a big shot in the Blazing Flame sect. However, no matter how unhappy he was, he could only suppress all of this at the moment. Steward Wu, it's not what you think it is. However, it's good that you're here. Bailey Hongzhuang of the Raging Flame sect poisoned Wu Zhe, and even tried to blackmail us. I think you should deal with this matter properly. Di Sudong's face did not look good. Originally, he did not know how to deal with this matter. Now that Wu Wenfeng had come, it was an opportunity to solve the problem. Hearing Di Sudong's words, Wu Wenfeng was slightly stunned, and his eyes revealed some surprise. Poison? Is this true? Wu Wenfeng turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The D family intended to gang up on us. I had no choice but to do so. Wan Yanhan also said. The situation just now was very dangerous. If it wasn't for Junior Sister's actions, I'm afraid we would all be dead now. Di Sudong and the others' expressions changed slightly, but they did not refute. After all, everyone had witnessed the development of the situation. There was no point in denying it. Wu Wenfeng was also a smart person. He sized up the situation before him and understood what had happened. Brother Di, they are all disciples of the Blazing Flame sect. The Blazing Flame sect is responsible for their safety. I hope that on account of our past relationship, you will not cause trouble here. Otherwise, if this continues, both sides will not be happy. Chapter 4297. Logically speaking, this was still within the Fiery Inferno sect's jurisdiction. If the other party could not wait to make a move, wouldn't it be a slap to the Fiery Inferno sect's face? Steward Wu, this matter is not as you described, Di Sudong immediately explained. Bailey Hongzhuang had a bad premonition when she noticed Di Sudong's gaze on Di Beichen. When Di Sudong opened his mouth, she sighed inwardly. He was indeed a sly old fox. Steward Wu, I know that Wan Yanhan and the other two are from the Fiery Inferno sect. Even if I am unhappy with them, I would not choose to attack them at the Fiery Inferno sect's gates. However, the D family's target is this man in white. It's just that when we attacked this man, the three of them participated in the battle themselves. In all fairness, this matter should not be our problem, right? Or is this man in white also a disciple of the Fiery Inferno sect? Di Sudong's face rippled with a faint smile, but his eyes were filled with a hidden sharpness. No matter what, as long as Di Beichen was not a disciple of the Fiery Inferno sect, they were in the right. As expected, Wu Wenfeng's expression became complicated when he heard Di Sudong's words. In fact, he had already noticed Di Beichen when he had just come out. It was hard to ignore such an outstanding man. However, he did not overlook the closeness between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. In his heart, he had already guessed that the other party's relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not simple. In the face of Di Sudong's questioning, Wu Wenfeng's mind raced. He had not expected the situation to suddenly turn out this way. If he said that Di Beichen was not a disciple of the Fiery Inferno sect, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would not sit idly by as long as Di Beichen and the rest still decided to attack Di Beichen. If he said that Di Beichen was a disciple of the Fiery Inferno sect, no matter how one looked at it, it would seem a little far-fetched. The Di family would also find it difficult to accept his explanation. then it would be tantamount to completely falling out between the two sides. It had not been easy for him to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang. An inscription master was very valuable to the Fiery Inferno sect, so he had to protect her. Therefore, how should he answer this question? The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also fell on Wu Wenfeng's face. They just wanted to know what decision Wu Wenfeng would make. Di Sudong and the others were also in the same state. Under such circumstances, they did not believe that Wu Wenfeng could still say such words. While Wu Wenfeng's to the Inferno sects the family sects, it's so livelies. There was a faint smile on Chang Zhonghao's face as he walked calmly and easily towards Wu Wenfeng and the others. His eyes were looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with interest. Although he had been rejected by Bailey Hongzhuang earlier, he had arranged for people to keep an eye on the place. As long as there was any movement, they would immediately report to him. He had never thought that such a lively scene would occur. How interesting. He studied Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. Ever since he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master, he had always wanted to meet this extremely young inscription master, but he had never had the chance. Wu Wenfeng clearly treated Bailey Hongzhuang as a treasure. He had covered her up and did not want anyone to see her at all. Chapter 4298. After Wu Wenfeng saw Chang Zhonghao, his face stiffened slightly. Chang Zhonghao was definitely one of the people he didn't want to see. Sure enough, since Chang Zhonghao arrived, he found that Chang Zhonghao's eyes had been fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Obviously, he had found out Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. Compared to Wu Wenfeng's worry, Di Sudong and the others smiled happily after seeing Chang Zhonghao. In their opinion, Chang Zhonghao was on the same side as them. Master Chang, you're here. Chang Zhonghao smiled and nodded. Yes, I happened to pass by and noticed that something seemed to have happened here, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect it to be you guys. Listening to Chang Zhonghao's words, Wu Wenfeng cursed in his heart. This guy definitely rushed over after hearing the news. What did he mean by passing by? It was impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Chang Zhonghao. She had heard of the only inscription master in Rong and city many times. Previously, someone had informed her that Chang Zhonghao wanted to see her, but she refused. She didn't expect to see Chang Zhonghao in the end. I wonder if this is the owner of that inscription? Chang Zhonghao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile, but his question was directed at Wu Wenfeng. Obviously, only he and Wu Wenfeng knew about that matter. Hearing this, Wu Wenfeng's thoughts were really complicated. The previous troublesome matter hadn't been solved, and now there was another big trouble. It really made him restless. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang understood a bit in her heart. The inscription that Chang Zhonghao mentioned was probably the one that Steward Wu had taken out to appraise. However, after noticing the complicated expression on Wu Wenfeng's face, she understood what was going on. That's right. Wu Wenfeng nodded. At this point, it was useless for him to hide it. From Chang Zhonghao's performance, it could be seen that he had already confirmed this fact. Even if he didn't admit it, Chang Zhonghao would find ways to confirm it himself. The smile on Chang Zhonghao's lips gradually widened, and his gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang became brighter and brighter. He had guessed correctly, the inscription was actually created by such a young girl. This news was too hard to believe. It seemed that this young woman had an incredible master behind her. To be able to have such attainments in inscriptions at such a young age, one could see how amazing he was. He had to befriend her. If he could obtain the inscription pattern technique from her, that would be great. I didn't expect that young lady would have such attainments in the inscription technique at such a young age. I'm impressed. I wonder if I have the honor of befriending you? Chang Zhonghao's every move was refined and courteous, and his gaze was sincere and serious. It was as if he treated Bailey Hongzhuang as someone of equal weight and not just a junior. Wu Wenfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang understood why Chang Zhonghao had such an attitude. However, the other cultivators and the D family members present could not help but be dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Oh my god, am I seeing things? Master Chang actually has such an attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 4299. When Wanyan Han used that inscription pattern, I already noticed its power. Now it seems that the level of that inscription pattern is definitely not low. The cultivators of the Raging Flame sect suddenly understood everything at this moment. No wonder Steward Wu would still recruit Bailey Hongzhuang under such circumstances. It was because of her inscription technique. Previously, everyone thought that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, even if she had mastered the inscription technique, her attainment in the inscription technique would not be strong. Now that Chang Zonghao had appeared, everyone understood that her inscription technique was definitely not simple. This was because there were originally many young inscriptionists in Rong and City. These people were all trying their best to squeeze into Chang Zonghao's line of sight, wanting to learn from him. However, it was extremely difficult to be accepted as a disciple by Chang Zonghao. As for the situation where Chang Zonghao took the initiative to look for her, it was even more unheard of. Di Sudong and the rest could not help but be dumbfounded after seeing this scene. They originally thought that Chang Zonghao was on their side and that he was targeting Wu Wenfeng. However, from the current situation, it seemed that the one that Chang Zonghao was interested in was Bailey Hongzhuang. According to this development, Chang Zonghao obviously wanted to extend an olive branch to Bailey Hongzhuang. In this way, besides Wu Wenfeng, wouldn't there be another force protecting Bailey Hongzhuang? Second uncle, what's the situation? DeVows also realized that the situation was a little strange at this moment, and could not help but look at Di Sudong. Di Sudong's face was ugly, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart that Chang Zonghao was really an old fox. All the previous words were actually just to get information from their mouths, so as to determine whether Bailey Hongzhuang was the person he was looking for. As for the rest of the situation, it was completely their own imagination. From the beginning to the end, Chang Zonghao had never explicitly said that he had a grudge with Wu Wenfeng, but the meaning he had shown before was obviously so. Master Cheng, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. If there's a chance, I'm naturally willing to befriend Grandmaster. But in the current situation, I'm afraid Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't stupid. Although she didn't have any feelings for Master Chang, she knew that this was a great opportunity to help them. It seemed that their current predicament could be resolved. Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at each other. They couldn't understand why this rarely seen Master Chang would suddenly get involved in this matter. However, it didn't seem to be a bad thing. Don't worry, Miss Bailey. With me around, this won't be a problem. Chang Zonghao's expression was calm and certain. To him, there was nothing more important than improving his inscription technique. Although the D family was not a small force, he had nothing to fear in Rong and City. If he wanted to protect someone, the D family wouldn't dare to say anything. Di Sudong frowned. Chang Zonghao's attitude was already very obvious in his words. However, he didn't expect the situation to suddenly be out of their control. At this moment, they had become the people with the least right to speak. Wu Wenfeng's heart also tightened. He knew Chang Zonghao's style of doing things very well. This guy obviously wanted to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang to his side. How could this be? Chapter 4300. If he allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to leave just like that, the higher-ups would definitely blame him. At this thought, Wu Wenfeng hurriedly said, Master Chang, Bailey Hongzhuang is a disciple of the Fiery Flame sect. We can handle her matters. We don't need to trouble you. Oh, Chang Zonghao raised his eyebrows. But this man in white doesn't seem to be a disciple of the Fiery Flame sect? Although you are the steward of the Fiery Flame sect, it doesn't seem appropriate for you to show your face, does it? He had been watching the show for a while, and naturally knew that Di Beichen was definitely not a member of the Fiery Flame sect. After hearing Chang Zhonghao's words, Wu Wenfeng made up his mind. Now, he no longer cared whether the Di family would misunderstand. Keeping Bailey Hongzhuang was the most important thing. Previously, Chang Zonghao was the only inscription master in Rong and City. They had been suppressed everywhere. Now they had finally found Bailey Hongzhuang to turn the tables. If Bailey Hongzhuang was also recruited by Chang Zonghao in the future, they would really be completely controlled by Chang Zonghao. Master Chang, you don't know this. This man in white is actually a disciple of the Fiery Flame sect. Once this was said, everyone present was stunned. This explanation was a little too far-fetched. Actually, Bailey Hongzhuang has already recommended him to me. He just hasn't reported to me yet. As you all know, it's time for the disciples of the Fiery Flame sect to report to you. He is now reporting to the Fiery Flame sect. Wu Wenfeng's expression was calm, but his palms could not help but sweat. This was the best explanation he could think of so far. Fortunately, everything could be connected. Although the explanation was a little far-fetched, at least there was nothing wrong with it. Bailey Hongzhuang, am I right? Wu Wenfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Yes, this is Di Beichen whom I introduced to you before. Wu Wenfeng heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's cooperative reply. He turned to look at Di Sudong and said, Brother Di, there was a misunderstanding earlier. He is also a disciple of the Inferno sect. I hope you can understand. Di Sudong's eyes were full of haze. Even a fool would know that Wu Wenfeng had changed his words at the last minute. However, in the current situation, whether he exposed it or not, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't touch her, so he simply didn't bother to expose it. Steward Wu, I won't say anything else. However, Bailey Hongzhuang poisoned Wu Zhe. Since she's a disciple of the Raging Flame sect, shouldn't you step forward and resolve this matter? Di Sudong's attitude was firm. No matter what, the problem of the poison had to be resolved. Wu Wenfeng frowned. This matter was indeed a little troublesome. He could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and say, Bailey Hongzhuang, hand over the antidote. DeVos, who was originally extremely unhappy, had his eyes brighten when he heard this. As long as the antidote could be cured, it would not be too late to think about other things at length. Master, isn't it too unwise to hand over the antidote just like that? Xiao He was a little dissatisfied. The Di family was really asking for a lesson. It had not been easy to teach them a lesson, but now they had to return the antidote. It was really annoying. Chapter 4301. Steward Wu, I can hand over the antidote, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Once these words were spoken, DeVo's face lit up with a delighted smile while Di Sudong also heaved a sigh of relief. Even though they did not achieve their goal today, they did not suffer any losses. However, they attacked us first. We did not start the fight. I had no other choice but to do so. At the same time, I'm not a soft persimmon and I won't let them bully me. I can hand over the antidote, but they must compensate me with 100,000 spirit stones. Otherwise, I won't hand it over. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a dazzling light. Her tone was unyielding and her aura was resolute. The other party had taken the initiative to cause trouble for them. If they did not pay a certain price, she would not let them go. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the faces of DeVos and the others turned abnormally ugly. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude would be so unyielding. Now that Wu Wenfeng had stepped in, she still dared to insist. Steward Wu, you've seen Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude. 100,000 spirit stones is simply an exorbitant demand. Di Sudong's face was filled with dissatisfaction. Today, he had tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. He was already very unhappy and had lost face in front of so many people. If Wu Wenfeng and Chang Zonghao had not appeared, he would have immediately taken Bailey Hongzhuang's life. Now that he had agreed to let go, Bailey Hongzhuang still dared to ask for a yard after taking an inch. How hateful! Wu Wenfeng stared helplessly at Bailey Hongzhuang. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would say such a thing. Steward Wu, my wife's words are not wrong. They were the ones who had taken the initiative to cause trouble. If it wasn't for the fact that we still had some ability to protect ourselves, we would have died in their hands by now. Now, shouldn't they compensate us? Di Beichen's voice was low and powerful. His wife was not someone who could be easily bullied. Naturally, he had to pay the price. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's determined expressions, Wu Wenfeng understood that if the other party did not take out the 100,000 spirit stones, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not take out the antidote. At this moment, Chang Zonghao spoke out as well. Miss Bailey is right indeed. How could we inscription masters be bullied and casually let off? 100,000 spirit stones is already a light compensation. As Chang Zonghao's voice fell, Di Sudong couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. 100,000 spirit stones. And this was still a small number? Don't they know how much 100,000 spirit stones are worth? If the disciples of the Raging Inferno sect wanted to obtain 100,000 spirit stones for cultivating resources, they would have to stay here for a long time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had asked for 100,000 spirit stones right off the bat. This was not an amount that the Di family could easily give out. However, when he saw Chang Zonghao's nonchalant look, he also understood that inscription masters had always been rich people. There were many people who brought spirit stones to their doorstep. Therefore, their point of view on spirit stones was completely different from cultivators. At this thought, he suddenly recalled that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually an inscription master as well. That was why she had said such a shocking amount right off the bat. When he saw that Chang Zonghao had also spoken up for Bailey Hongzhuang, Wu Wenfeng couldn't help but say, Brother Di, you were indeed the ones who took the initiative to cause trouble today. It's only right for you to compensate a little. What do you think? Chapter 4302. DeVos couldn't help but shout angrily. He couldn't understand why the situation in Rome and city was so different from what he had imagined. Who did Bailey Hongzhuang think she was? Now, everyone was siding with Bailey Hongzhuang. He suddenly felt that their roles had changed. Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be the one with a background, while he was the one from the lower world without any background. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at DeVos lazily. Isn't the Di family very capable? You can find someone to cure you. I don't have time to entertain you. Her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave. Di Wu's face was gloomy. His face was so dark that it was almost dripping water. However, he really didn't know what to say in the current situation. He could only clench his fists tightly and restrain himself from rushing forward. Di Sudong also pulled Di Wu's back. Now the Raging Flame sect clearly didn't put the Di family in their eyes, not to mention that Chang Zonghao was waiting to help Bailey Hongzhuang at any time. Under such circumstances, they couldn't gain any advantage at all. In that case, they might as well restrain themselves for the time being. Besides, Bailey Hongzhuang's antidote didn't mean that they really couldn't cure it. She might just be scaring them on purpose. It would be a joke if they took out 100,000 spirit stones just like that. Let's go. Di Sudong glared at Wu Wenfeng and Chang Zonghao. He would remember what had happened today. Chang Zonghao was extremely calm in the face of Di Sudong's glare. After all, he didn't have much interaction with the Di family. If there was, it was the Di family who begged him. He had never begged them. He didn't care whether they hated him or not. Wu Wenfeng felt helpless. Between Bailey Hongzhuang and the Di family, he could only choose Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, he had no choice but to make this decision. Master Chang, we have some internal matters to take care of. We'll take our leave first. Wu Wenfeng cupped his hands at Chang Zonghao and immediately left with Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen and the others. It was obvious that he did not want Bailey Hongzhuang and Chang Zonghao to have any contact. Looking at Wu Wenfeng's expression, Chang Zonghao understood what he was thinking. He smiled and didn't say anything. It was not until Wu Wenfeng and the others walked into the Raging Flames gate that Chang Zhonghao's subordinate could not help but ask, "Master Chang, are we going to let them leave just like that? Steward Wu clearly doesn't want you to see Bailey Hongzhuang." It's normal for him to have such a reaction. I'm sure that every faction that finds such an inscription master would want to protect him and not let others know. After all, it would be a loss that they would not be able to bear if they were poached away by others. Chang Zhonghao's lips curled into a faint smile. Today's trip was really worth it. Then what should we do? There's nothing to do. Chang Zhonghao looked indifferent. As long as they're still in Rong and City, we'll have the chance to meet sooner or later. Wu Wenfeng is already afraid. This proves that he thinks that I can offer better terms than him. That's why he's afraid. Chang Zhonghao's dark eyes flickered with confidence. He would definitely recruit Bailey Hongzhuang and obtain the perfect inscription method from her. Chapter 4303. At the thought of this, Chang Zhonghao could not help but order, "Control the news. I don't want other inscription masters to hear about Bailey Hongzhuang." "Don't worry, master. I won't let this news spread." Upon hearing this, Chang Zhonghao nodded in satisfaction and turned to walk back. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others followed Wu Wenfeng and walked slowly into the Raging Inferno sect. The surrounding disciples of the Raging Inferno sect started discussing after seeing this scene. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had put on a good show today. "Wan Yanhan, your junior sister is really amazing. She could actually defeat the D family in that situation just now. 100,000 spirit stones. I was shocked when I heard this number." At this moment, Yi Haomiao was already full of admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. He thought that under such circumstances, it was already very good that they were not bullied by the D family. He did not expect that they would have the upper hand. Most importantly, even Steward Wu was on their side and gave Di Beichan the identity of a disciple of the Raging Inferno sect. He knew that the Raging Inferno sect had a set of standards for recruitment. He had been very surprised when Bailey Hongzhuang had joined the Raging Inferno sect directly. He had not expected that Di Beichan would be even faster. He had become a disciple of the Raging Inferno sect without going through the assessment. Wan Yanhan was not much better than Yi Haomiao. Yes, junior sister is really not simple. I think she must have been a very amazing person when she was in the Penglai Palace. Besides, Di Beichan and junior sister are both skilled and bold. No wonder they are a couple. Even he had not dared to speak under such circumstances, but Di Beichan had. Logically speaking, Di Beichan should have been the person with the least right to speak in such an environment. However, he had spoken fearlessly, as if there was nothing worth worrying about. I find it funny when I think about the D family's expressions just now. This is completely different from the arrogance they had when they first arrived. Originally, I thought that this was a huge problem that would be difficult to solve, but now this feeling has faded a lot. As he spoke, Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He knew very well that all these changes were because of Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for her, she and Wan Yanhan would be in a much more difficult situation now. A person with great skill is bold. This saying was not wrong at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's courage was much greater than theirs. Wu Wenfeng didn't say a word all the way until they reached their residence. Then, he closed the door and looked helplessly at the four young guys in front of him. "You knew that the D family would not let this matter rest. Yet you still caused such trouble today." Sigh. Wu Wenfeng sighed. He had mixed feelings at the moment. Actually, he cared about Chang Zhonghao the most, not the D family. "Steward Wu, we have no choice but to do this today," Wan Yanhan said. "Beichan happened to come to find me, but I didn't expect Avows to receive the news so quickly. That's why this happened." Bailey Hongzhuang explained slowly. They had indeed made things difficult for Wu Wenfeng today. But the situation itself had also exceeded their expectations. Upon hearing this, Wu Wenfeng's eyes couldn't help but fall on Di Beichan. He had to admit that Di Beichan really looked like the son of a big family. Chapter 4304. Wu Wenfeng calmed down and felt much more at ease. I just didn't think that the Fiery Flame sect would have another new disciple so soon. Steward Wu Di Beichen is actually very powerful. Even DeVows is no match for him. Wan Yanhan hurriedly spoke up. I understand that the Fiery Flame sect has its own set of criteria for recruiting disciples, but he definitely won't disappoint you. He's even more powerful than DeVows. Wu Wenfeng was astonished. He hadn't seen the fight between Di Beichen and the Di family. He had only thought that Di Beichen was too young to reach the Fiery Flame sect's standards. However, when he heard that Di Beichen was actually more powerful than DeVows, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He also knew that DeVows was at the Star Edge level 8. Given Di Beichen's age, if he had reached the Star Edge level 8, his cultivation talent would be too terrifying. Yi Haomiao nodded repeatedly. Yes, DeVows was held hostage by Di Beichen just now. There were many witnesses. Steward Wu, given Di Beichen's cultivation talent, I'm sure that many forces would be willing to recruit him. Actually, you didn't lose anything by recruiting him this time. Wan Yanhan smiled. He was absolutely right. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't been here, the Fiery Flame sect might not have been able to recruit such a person. Wu Wenfeng's gaze toward Di Beichen immediately changed. He already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were husband and wife. Thinking about Bailey Hongzhuang's inscription technique and Di Beichen's cultivation talent, they were a terrifying pair. Did you both just come up from the lower realm? Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes. The cultivators from the lower realm are becoming more and more amazing. Even in the upper realm, very few people can reach your level of cultivation. Wu Wenfeng immediately tossed the displeasure he had in his heart to the back of his mind. He was happy to be able to recruit another outstanding cultivator. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled. They didn't know how the cultivators from the lower realm performed here, but they didn't think they were much worse than the cultivators from the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang, as you can see, Master Cheng is very interested in you. Wu Wenfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a serious expression. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. She could also see this point. On the contrary, Wu Wenfeng seemed to have some scruples when facing the Di family. However, Chang Zonghao had no scruples at all. I hope you can agree to stay in the Fiery Flame sect. You can tell me if you need anything. Wu Wenfeng's expression was serious. He knew Chang Zonghao's methods very well. If Chang Zonghao wanted to find Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't stop him even if he wanted to. In that case, he could only communicate with Bailey Hongzhuang first. Otherwise, if Bailey Hongzhuang was poached, it would be very difficult for him to answer to the higher-ups. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded. Don't worry, Steward Wu. I don't like trouble. Since I have already joined the Fiery Flame sect, I will stay here properly. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmative answer, Wu Wenfeng's eyes lit up and he relaxed a lot. Chapter 4305. Let me know if you need anything. The Fiery Flame sect will do its best to satisfy you. Wu Wenfeng had already thought of all sorts of conditions. However, when he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually made up her mind to stay in the Fiery Flame sect, he suddenly felt that he had been overcomplicating things all this while. It was precisely because Bailey Hongzhuang was so honest that he felt somewhat embarrassed. Perhaps he was too worldly and worried that Bailey Hongzhuang might be poached by Chang Zonghao. But now the other side's honesty was like a clear stream, making him feel a different feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Steward Wu, you are too polite. We have already caused you a lot of trouble. You have always helped us. I am very grateful. Although she knew that Wu Wenfeng had done all this because he had taken a liking to her inscription technique, this was a very normal thing. No one would bother if they did not have sufficient value. At least, Wu Wenfeng had indeed helped them chase away the trouble of the Di family today. If it had not been for the Fiery Flame sect, it would have been very difficult for them to face the group of cultivators from the Di family. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the smile on Wu Wenfeng's face gradually widened. If something similar happens in the future, you can inform me first. It will be easier for me to resolve it after I know the situation. Otherwise, it would have been too abrupt like today. Thank you, Steward Wu. However, I don't think something like this will happen again in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Di Beichen, who was beside her. It was obvious that Xiren and Shangguan Yingying would not be here for a while. Being able to meet Beichen was already the biggest surprise. Di Beichen, right? Now you are a new disciple of the Fiery Flame sect, just like Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as you cultivate well, the Fiery Flame sect will not mistreat any of you. As for this residence, do you want to stay with Bailey Hongzhuang? Or do you want to arrange another room? Wu Wenfeng was obviously in an extremely good mood, and his tone was extremely relaxed. I'll share a room with my wife. All right. Wu Wenfeng nodded. By the way, I'm afraid the Di family will not let this matter rest. You'd better stay in the Raging Flame sect and try not to go out. Steward Wu, don't worry. We won't go out again. That's good. After coming out from Steward Wu's place, Wan Yanhan and the others could not help but smile at each other. Today's situation really gave me a fright. I didn't expect that we would be able to avert danger in the end. Wan Yanhan shook his head and sighed. Anyway, junior brother Di, welcome to the Raging Flame School. It's a pity that we can only stay here for the time being, and can't go to the restaurant to drink and celebrate with you. A faint smile spread across Di Beichen's handsome face. Brother Wan, you're too polite. You husband and wife finally reunited. Wan Yanhan and I won't hold you up. After all, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Yi Haomiao smiled mockingly. After saying goodbye, he pulled Wan Yanhan and left together. Watching Yi Haomiao and Wan Yanhan leave quickly, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but smile at each other. Di Beichen reached out to hold Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and smiled from the bottom of his heart. Wife, it's so good to see you again. So good. Chapter 4306. Ever since he arrived in the upper realm, his heart had been empty. He kept thinking about the various dangers that Bailey Hongzhuang might encounter. It was only when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang that he felt completely relieved. It was as if he had come back to life. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curled into a bright and brilliant smile. That's right. I thought I didn't know when I would be able to see you again. I didn't expect you to find me so soon. I'm so happy. After returning to the house, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not say anything. They only hugged each other tightly. Being close to each other's skin and feeling each other's warmth was the most reassuring thing. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Di Beichen's shoulder and asked, Beichen, what kind of inheritance did you receive from the ruins? I received the inheritance of the Dark Force. Turns out that the Dark Force is really powerful. The rumors from the past were not wrong. Di Beichen played with Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless little hand. Those slender fingers and fair skin looked like a work of art. When he held it in his hand, the warm touch made him unwilling to let go. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Her guess was right. Di Beichen received the inheritance of the Dark Force. However, the world has a huge misunderstanding about the Dark Force. My master is the owner of the Dark Force ruins. He is the person who controls the Dark Force. He said that the Dark Force itself is a very powerful force. In fact, although the Dark Force existed in the past, it did not cause any harm. It was only later that a cultivator with impure thoughts accidentally used it and caused a disaster. However, since then, everyone thought that the Dark Force was a very evil force. Although my master wanted to change everything, it was too late. No one believed him. Di Beichen slowly narrated the story. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard everything, she could not help but sigh in her heart. Actually, there are still some things that master didn't tell me. He said that my destiny is very similar to his. As for the other things, it wouldn't do me any good to tell me too early, so he sealed that part and said that I would naturally know in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows as a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. So strange? Di Beichen nodded slightly. Yes, although there are still many things that I don't understand, I know that my master is a very good and upright person. His master's greatest wish was to eliminate everyone's prejudice against the power of darkness. He hoped that one day, The power of darkness would be accepted by everyone. Now he has placed his hopes on me. He hopes that I can do it. Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand. Her eyes were serious and firm. Beichen, I believe you can do it. Di Beichen smiled dotingly. This is a very difficult task. Even someone as powerful as my master couldn't do it. You believe that I can do it? I believe in you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I will do my best. I won't let you down. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang again. As long as you are by my side, I have confidence. I will always be here. DeVos and the others returned to the inn with stomachs full of anger. Staying in the room, everyone felt that they had been too aggrieved today. They did not know how to vent their anger. Damn it. Damn that Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 4307. I really don't know what's so great about her. Everyone is actually protecting her. DeVos wanted to tear everything in front of him into pieces when he thought of what had happened before. Wu Zhe, we might have underestimated this Bailey Hongzhuang. She's not simple. Di Sudong was also very angry, but he still calmed down and analyzed the matter. The reason why things developed differently from what we expected was entirely because of this Bailey Hongzhuang. Compared to her, Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao are really nothing. He wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was very good at judging the situation. Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao obviously didn't have any say in the previous scene. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang took the initiative. Even the new man in white had a certain amount of weight. Then what should we do now? Bailey Hongzhuang has poisoned me. We have to detoxify it as soon as possible. DeVos couldn't help but look at the green mark on his wrist. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel anxious. He didn't want to lose his life like this. Bailey Hongzhuang had acted so confidently before. Now that he thought of it, he still felt a little panicked. Hearing DeVos' words, Di Sudong also came back to his senses and said, "Now is indeed not the time to be angry. The most important thing is to detoxify the poison for you first." Yes. DeVos nodded repeatedly. We don't know when the poison will take effect. We must detoxify it before it takes effect. You all go find the doctor and poison master now. Di Sudong looked at the others and ordered. Yes. After everyone left, DeVos couldn't help but ask, "Second uncle, do you think that this poison can't be detoxified by others?" No, that Bailey Hongzhuang is just a person from the lower world. How can the doctors from the upper world not be able to detoxify her poison? She just wanted to scare us before, so she acted so arrogantly. We can't give her 100,000 spirit stones even if we think about it. After DeVos heard Di Sudong's affirmative and comforting words, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. That's right. This woman is really asking for an exorbitant price. She must be crazy for spirit stones. Wu Zhe, don't worry. The doctor will definitely be able to cure the poison. She's just a fellow from the lower realms. Does she really think she's that capable? After I detoxify the poison, I'll go in front of her. Let's see if she can still be as proud as she is today. The Di family's cultivators were very efficient. They quickly found a doctor and a poison master. However, they were dumbfounded when they heard what the doctor and the poison master had to say. I'm sorry, but I've never heard of this poison before. I'm afraid I won't be able to find a way to neutralize it. Young Master D, the poison in your body is very special. I have never seen it in a book. As for the antidote, Young Master D, I'm sorry. I am not capable enough. Doctor, please help me think of another way. I'm really sorry. Di Sudong and DeVos watched the doctors and poison masters leave one by one. Their hearts sank every time they heard a person's words. After all the doctors and poison masters had left, the Di family's cultivators' faces turned as red as a pig's liver. Chapter 4308. Di Sudong, who had been full of confidence, was now speechless. Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. No one could cure this poison. How could this be? She's just a cultivator from the lower realm. How could her poison not be cured? Di Sudong's face was full of disbelief. What's with the doctors and poison masters from the upper realm? They can't even cure a poison from the lower realm. Second master, I think that little girl is full of evil energy. Everything that happens to her is strange. Something's not right at all. Another Di family disciple could not help but say. Di Sudong frowned. At the moment he had the same thought. Bailey Hongzhuang was too strange. No one could see through her at all. He had thought that it would be easy to get rid of this little girl. However, the situation was now completely obstructed because of her, which made him feel very helpless. Second uncle, what should we do now? DeVows looked at Di Sudong nervously. He was still poisoned and no one knew when the poison would take effect. If the poison took effect in the next second, would he lose his life? No. He did not want to die yet. Di Sudong's face was gloomy. This little girl has always been so calm. I'm afraid she has already guessed that this would be the result. If we go and find her now, she will definitely be very proud. But if this poison is not cured, I will die. Di Wuza had an anxious look on his face. 100,000 spirit stones it is. If she doesn't give me the spirit stones, only death awaits me. He no longer suspected that Bailey Hongzhuang was lying to him. Everyone who had come just now had proven that he was really poisoned. However, even those doctors could not say when the poison would take effect. When he saw Di Wuza's nervous appearance, Di Sudong nodded and said, Wuza, don't be anxious. Compared to 100,000 spirit stones in your life is naturally more important. Since we can't find a doctor to cure you, let's go find Bailey Hongzhuang. Thank you, second uncle. Di Wuza heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to losing one's life, losing one's dignity naturally wasn't much. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were resting, someone knocked on the door. The two of them looked at each other, feeling a little puzzled. They didn't know who would come looking for them at this time. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao standing outside. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with surprise. Didn't you go back? Did something happen? Based on her understanding of Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao, they wouldn't disturb them at this time unless something happened. Actually, we didn't want to disturb you. Wanyan Han looked apologetically at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. We just heard that the people from the Di family seem to have come to the Raging Flame sect again and specifically asked to see junior sister. Hearing Wanyan Han's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood and the corners of her lips curled into a mocking smile. It seems that they can't cure the poison, so they came back to find me. Huh. Yi Haomiao was astonished. They can't cure the poison? Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Did you think that I was lying? Chapter 4309. It has always been difficult to detoxify Hongzhuang's poison. Di Beichen's handsome face was filled with an indifferent smile. His voice was faintly filled with pride and pride. His wife's means had always been very powerful. Yi Haomiao nodded. Miss Bailey, you really make me see you in a new light time and time again. The Di family is here now. What should we do? Wanyan Han looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, not knowing what decision she would make. Don't pay attention to them. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent. This is their choice. She had already given DeVows a chance today, but they had not been willing to believe it. So what if they came again now? You don't want 100,000 spirit stones? Yi Haomiao could not help but ask. 100,000 spirit stones, that was a resource that was extremely difficult to obtain. They usually had a lot of resources in the Raging Flame sect, but they would have to stay here for a long time if they wanted 100,000 spirit stones. Now that 100,000 spirit stones were in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she actually rejected it so casually? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Just as she was about to explain, Wanyan Han could not help but say helplessly, Yi Haomiao, have you forgotten that junior sister is an inscription master? When had an inscription master ever lacked spirit stones? Yi Haomiao only reacted when he heard Wan Yinhan's words. He immediately touched his head helplessly and said, "Yes, I'm used to looking at things from my point of view. I forgot that Miss Bailey's status is different. Actually, this is quite good. The D family has always been so arrogant. Today's incident can be considered a lesson to them, and let them know that they are not the ones who call the shots here. Junior sister will head back first." Okay. Di Sudong and the others stood outside the Raging Flame sect and waited anxiously. Now that DeVows had been poisoned, no one knew when the poison would take effect. Since they had decided to look for Bailey Hongzhuang, it was naturally better to do it as soon as possible. Today Di Sudong's group had caused quite a commotion in the Raging Flame School. Now that they had returned, the disciples of the Raging Flame School paid close attention to them. However, they didn't know what trouble they were looking for. In my opinion, it will be very difficult for the Di family to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. I used to think that Di Wentao was very powerful when he was here, but now I don't think so at all. Yan Xiangming and the rest are the ones who are really unlucky. It doesn't matter if the Di family leaves, but they still have to stay in the Raging Flame sect. You can imagine what kind of situation they will face in the future. Faced with the gazes of the surrounding cultivators, the Di family members wanted to cover their faces. Unfortunately, they could not do so. Why hasn't Bailey Hongzhuang come out yet? DeVows furrowed his brows in annoyance. He found it unbearable to stay under these gazes for even a second longer, but Bailey Hongzhuang still hadn't come out. The person who sent the message should have already sent the message. Why hasn't there been any movement after so long? Di Sudong's brows furrowed. Second uncle, that Bailey Hongzhuang shouldn't be unable to put on airs, right? Di Wuze had a bad premonition in his heart. If it really was like this, then it would be terrible. I don't think so. Di Sudong shook his head. Today, she opened her mouth and asked for 100,000 spirit stones. Obviously, she wants to make a fortune from us. Now that this opportunity is right in front of her, she has no reason to reject it. I think she deliberately slowed down to embarrass us. Chapter 43:10. However, when Yan Xiangming and others came back and told them that Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen to refuse, Di Sudong's face, which was originally quite calm, became extremely ugly. He did not expect that the result would be like this. Are you sure? Bailey Hongzhuang has rejected the offer? DeVows stared at Yan Xiangming in disbelief, wondering if he had heard wrongly. Yan Xiangming's expression was extremely ugly, but he still nodded. Brother Wuze, we've asked. Bailey Hongzhuang has really rejected the offer. Damn it. DeVows could not help but curse. They had already lowered themselves to look for Bailey Hongzhuang, but Bailey Hongzhuang had still rejected them. This was simply a slap in the face. Di Sudong's expression was also ugly. Previously, he had solemnly vowed that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely save Aang. He never thought that the other party would be so ruthless in this slap. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really difficult to deal with, Di Sudong said in a low voice. He had thought that 100,000 spirit stones would be enough to move Bailey Hongzhuang. He never thought that the other party would be so patient. Second uncle, what should we do? DeVows had no idea at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang had his life in her hands. Di Sudong's expression was ashen, but he did not know what to do at this moment. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not come out to see them, then they could not do anything. Yan Xiangming, bring us to Steward Wu. Di Sudong sighed. It seemed that they were destined to be humiliated today. If Bailey Hongzhuang was determined not to give them the antidote, then their only hope was Wu Wenfeng. He only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would be willing to listen to Wu Wenfeng's words. After all, even if they were humiliated, it was not as important as DeVows' life. All right. Yan Xiaoming hurriedly nodded and led DeVows and the others into the Raging Flame sect. When Wu Wenfeng saw that Di Sudong and the others had come again, he could not help but feel a burst of irritation in his heart. Now, as long as he saw the Di clan, he felt that it was troublesome. Not only that, but looking at Yan Xiangming and the other two who were leading the way, he also felt extremely annoyed. If it weren't for them, this matter wouldn't have become so complicated. Steward Wu, I apologize for disturbing you at night. Di Sudong's face was full of smiles, and his attitude was completely different from before. When he saw that the other party's attitude was somewhat restrained, Wu Wenfeng's expression became a little better. He said, Brother Di, may I know what has caused you to make a special trip here at night? I have a presumptuous request that I would like to ask Steward Wu for help. Di Sudong cupped his hands. If it weren't for the fact that we had no other way, we wouldn't have come to disturb you at night. I hope that Steward Wu can help us. Brother Di, you're too polite. What's the matter? As long as it's something that I can help with, I will definitely help. Bailey Hongzhuang poisoned Wu Zhe. I hope that Brother Di can help us get the antidote, Di Sudong said helplessly. When he heard that, Wu Wenfeng's expression changed and his eyes flickered with astonishment. You didn't manage to get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang's poison? Di Sudong shook his head, looking somewhat embarrassed. We really underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. We didn't expect her poison to be so powerful. We found many doctors and poison masters, but they couldn't get rid of it. Chapter 43:11. When Wu Wenfeng finished listening to Di Sudong's narration, his expression became a little strange. The Di family was considered quite powerful in the upper realm. However, they were now in a terrible fix because of a cultivator who had just arrived in the upper realm. When he recalled how arrogant they had been when they had first arrived at the Raging Flame sect and how they were now begging for help, even he could not help but have an illusion. Steward Wu, I'll leave this matter to you. You must help us. When Tao is no longer around, if something happens to Wu Wentao, the Di family will not be able to bear it, Di Sudong said earnestly. The Di family had been enraged by Di Wentao's mishap. That was why so many of them had come to Rong and City. They had wanted to seek justice for Di Wentao in a dignified manner. Who would have thought that such a situation would occur? At the very least, he had to ensure that DeVos was safe and sound. Otherwise, he would not know how to face his family members if he returned like this. Wu Wenfeng looked at Di Sudong and the others and was filled with emotions. His initial dissatisfaction with the Di family gradually dissipated. In fact, the Di family was not the only one who would be unable to bear such a huge difference. Brother Di, I will persuade Bailey Hongzhuang, Wu Wenfeng said. Di Sudong's eyes lit up when he heard Wu Wenfeng's words. He hurriedly thanked him. Steward Wu. Thank you so much for being willing to help. You're welcome. Wu Wenfeng waved his hand. Di Wentao is also a disciple of the Raging Flame sect. We did not want to see this happen either. After a short conversation, Wu Wenfeng led the Di family to Bailey Hongzhuang's residence. Initially, he had intended to go alone. However, after seeing how anxious the members of the Di family were, he had decided to bring them along. However, he was not sure whether Bailey Hongzhuang would agree or not. Wife, there seems to be a lot of people walking towards us. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms, looking confident and confident. He wanted to have a good time with Bailey Hongzhuang tonight, but he didn't expect that things would come one after another. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She had also heard the footsteps in the distance. It seems like the Di family still came knocking on my door after I rejected them. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile. As expected, DeVos's position in their team is very high. Since they can't cure the poison, they can't let anything happen to him. Naturally, they can only look for him. But they should know that it's impossible for me to agree. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. The Di family had already eaten a lot of things in front of her. How could they still dare to run over like this? Di Beichen chuckled. His deep eyes flickered with a wise light. If I'm not wrong, they must have invited Steward Wu. After all, they can't bear the consequences of such a big thing. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang's face turned a bit more serious. What you said really makes sense. The only possibility now is Steward Wu. Wife, if Steward Wu has really brought people here, you have to think carefully about how to deal with him. Di Beichen squeezed Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand. Although a large group of people was about to arrive, they were not worried at all. Chapter 43:12. Knock knock knock. As expected, someone knocked on the door. Di Beichen was the first to open the door. Di Beichen's eyes lit up when he saw Wu Wenfeng, who was at the front of the group. Steward Wu. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Di Beichen's side with a kind and calm smile on her exquisite face. Please come in. Wu Wenfeng sighed inwardly when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's calm expression. It seemed that everything was within Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not admitted it herself, he would not have believed that this intelligent and resourceful woman had come from the lower realm. Di Sudong and the rest, especially DeVows, felt extremely conflicted when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. The person he was most unwilling to show weakness to was Bailey Hongzhuang. However, his life was now in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. There was no way he could refuse to admit defeat. It was extremely terrible. The atmosphere became extremely awkward when the group of D family cultivators walked into the room. Both parties did not say a word. The room was filled with people, but there was no sound at all. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down after pouring a cup of tea for Wu Wenfeng. Her expression was calm and indifferent. She was not anxious at all when the other party did not speak. Di Sudong and the rest also remained silent. They could speak softly in front of Wu Wenfeng, but they could not do so in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. When he saw this, Wu Wenfeng could not help but speak first. Bailey Hongzhuang, you should have guessed the purpose of my visit today. I hope that you can hand over the antidote. The D family was indeed the one who started the fight today. They are very apologetic. However, it would be troublesome if lives were lost. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows when she heard this. Her gaze then landed on Di Sudong and the rest behind Wu Wenfeng. Apologetic? The way they are acting. I really don't see any apology at all. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's mocking expression, DeVows and the others couldn't help but clench their fists. They couldn't wait to rush up and kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Unfortunately, the other party had grasped their weakness, so they could only endure it. Miss Bailey, I'm very sorry about what happened today, Di Sudong said slowly. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a very calm gaze, as if he was really apologetic about what had happened today. However, the trace of hatred in the depths of his eyes was deep and suppressed. It was obvious that he had suppressed all his emotions in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the look in her eyes, but did not point it out. In any case, there was no possibility of reconciliation between them. Even if the other party sincerely apologized, she would still ignore it. After Di Sudong finished speaking, he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze had stopped on DeVows. It was obvious that DeVows had not apologized. When he saw this, Di Sudong could not help but nudge DeVows. DeVows then said unwillingly, I was presumptuous today. I hope that Miss Bailey will be magnanimous enough to forgive me and give me the antidote. The smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips gradually widened. Although the other party's apology was fake, she felt that it was pretty good that he could suppress their arrogance. Chapter 43:13. Bailey Hongzhuang, they've already apologized. Why don't you hand over the antidote? Wu Wenfeng stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. If it was an ordinary disciple, he could directly order them. But the other party was Bailey Hongzhuang, so he could not do so. Steward Wu, since you've personally come, I naturally have to give you face. Once these words were spoken, Wu Wenfeng, Di Sudong and the rest all heaved a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang had finally agreed. However, before the smiles on their faces bloomed, Bailey Hongzhuang's words stunned them once again. I can hand over the antidote, but the compensation is also necessary. 150,000 spirit stones. Hand it over and I'll give you the antidote. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Sudong and the rest were all dumbfounded. 150,000 spirit stones? Wasn't it 100,000 spirit stones previously? They had finally accepted the price of 100,000 spirit stones with great difficulty. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had opened her mouth and raised it by 50,000. Could it be that she thought that it was so easy to obtain these tens of thousands of spirit stones? Miss Bailey, did you remember wrongly? Di Sudong suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and asked tentatively. Today you clearly said that it was 100,000 spirit stones. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. During the day, I've already said that it was 100,000 spirit stones. If it wasn't 100,000 spirit stones, I wouldn't hand over the antidote. However, at that time you rejected it. Now that you want this antidote, then I'll raise the price by 50,000 spirit stones. So, 150,000 spirit stones is not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was innocent. She was clearly cheating people, but her appearance was extremely naive. She was already so black-hearted that no one could compete with her, but she still felt that her transaction was especially worth it. For a moment, Di Sudong and the rest felt that they could not help but curse. They had mingled around here for so long and had never seen such a shameless person. Di Beichun sat next to Bailey Hongzhuang. His extraordinarily handsome face was filled with a faint smile. His wife was as smart as ever. Her methods of doing business were becoming more and more outstanding. It seemed that he had taught her well during this period of time. Steward Wu Di Sudong could not help but look at Wu Wenfeng, only hoping that Wu Wenfeng could speak up for them. 100,000 spirit stones. It was already a huge loss for them to take it out. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had added another 50,000 spirit stones, they really couldn't bear it. Hearing this, Hongzhuang. 150,000 spirit stones, 100,000 spirit stones is not a small sum. Is the price? Steward Wu, this is how I always settle accounts. This is my style. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. There are a lot of things that some people don't know the value of and give up. But when they know the benefits, they come back. How can it be the same price? If Hong's test, I not, is, teat. Hong, not. Can you be any more exaggerated? A cultivator from the lower realm speaking in such a tone, was she really not afraid of biting her tongue? Even though they were cursing endlessly in their hearts at this moment, they could only swallow it back, not daring to speak. Chapter 43:14. Wu Wenfeng opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had already said so much, it seemed like there was no point for him to say anything else. At this thought, Wu Wenfeng could not help but look at Di Sudong and the others. He wanted to help but could not. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had already rejected him. Now that he had come, he wanted to make Bailey Hongzhuang be willing to hand over the antidote. As for the price that he had to pay, there was nothing he could do about it. When they saw Wu Wenfeng's expression, Di Sudong and the others' hearts sank. It seemed like they had no other choice but to hand over the 150,000 spirit stones. However, that was 150,000 spirit stones. In their Di family, this was also a huge sum of money. Now they had to hand it over just like that. Their hearts were bleeding. Di Sudong could not help but look at DeVos. He really regretted it. If he had not let DeVos come out alone this afternoon, this would not have happened and they would not have suffered such a huge loss. Unfortunately, there was no turning back now. DeVos' mood was also very bad. However, he was more afraid of Di Sudong's rejection. Second uncle, there is no other way. DeVos shook his head. He was really worried that if they continued to bargain, Bailey Hongzhuang would directly raise the price to 200,000 spirit stones or not pay at all. In that case, they would really be finished. All right. Di Sudong gritted his teeth and nodded. 150,000 spirit stones it is. However, you need to give us some time. We only have 100,000 spirit stones on us now. Can you give us the antidote first? He did not want to obey Li Hongzhuang, but they had come this time to avenge Di Wentao and had not expected to stay here for long. Naturally, they did not have many spirit stones on them. 100,000 spirit stones was all that they had. As for the remaining 50,000 spirit stones, they simply couldn't afford it. Li Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Di Sudong. Her meaning was obvious. Are you going to go back on your word? Steward Wu, believe me. I will definitely take out the 50,000 spirit stones, Di Sudong said. The Di family will not renege on a debt. Wu Wenfeng nodded and turned to look at Li Hongzhuang. I can guarantee that the Di family will not go back on their word. Why don't you give them the antidote first? Since Steward Wu has said so, I will naturally agree. Li Hongzhuang nodded and immediately took out a white porcelain bottle and placed it on the table. The antidote is here. Di Sudong took out a Qingkuan bag and placed it on the table. There are 100,000 spirit stones here. You can take a look. Li Hongzhuang opened it and saw that it was full of spirit stones. A satisfied smile appeared on her face. Okay. After coming out of Li Hongzhuang's house, Wu Wenfeng and the others walked all the way. The atmosphere was a little tense. Brother Di, Li Hongzhuang's temper is like this. I can only help you to this extent. I am really sorry. Wu Wenfeng cupped his fists, his voice filled with helplessness. He had seen Li Hongzhuang's temper today. Although she was young, she was definitely not someone to be trifled with. The Di family had suffered a huge setback because of her, not to mention the rest of the family. Steward Wu, don't say that. Actually, you have already helped us a lot. Di Sudong cupped his fists. We will head back first then. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.